Hi, this is Joe Garcia of the Countdown City Geeks. I'm going to be joined here by my counterpart, Daniel, the Legacy of Nerd, and we're going to review John Wick Chapter 4. So, full disclosure here, me and Daniel both took our wives to go ahead and go to this John Wick Chapter 4 screener. It was nice meeting your wife. Had a day out, away from the baby, which is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely a good thing.
Yeah. So we go and see, get all ready and excited, to go see John Wick Chapter 4. And we're going to give you our first impressions on what we really thought coming out of the theater, and we're trying not to go ahead and give a spoiler review. We're going to do that on our Countdown City Geeks live stream that we're going to have, I believe, on Wednesdays, from what Ted was telling me. So, John, so Daniel, want to go ahead and share your first impressions of John Wick Chapter 4 once you left the theater? I mean, what did you think of the movie?
I enjoyed it. I thought the action was better than the third one. I thought the third one's action was just like ridiculous. Like the things they were coming up with. My only gripe with this movie, well, I mean, there's a couple of little nitpicks, but my only real gripe is just the length of the movie. I think it's unneeded. I think they could have trimmed it off about 20 minutes or so. And when you guys see the movie, you'll understand. Like, there's some parts of it, like it just keeps going and going. You're like, they could have cut some of that right there. Like, it would have been fine. Not this is not spoilerish, but there's one part where Winston's walking like down this wall with a bunch of art, and it just keeps going and going. And that was just one example of like that. It wasn't necessary at all. So it was. I mean, I think they were trying to show as much detail and trying to get the points across as much as possible. But I think at that point, the point that they were trying to prove was proved way earlier in the film. But I mean, it was good. Um, I think the villains in this movie are much more memorable than the other villains from the other movies. Like, I kind of have to think about it. The first one was, I remember Theon, but like it was like not Theon, it was just the actor that played Theon, and then he was pretty much the issue. And then the second one, I don't even remember his name or anything like this, but this one, I think the villains are more, how do I say this? They have more character to them, I think, and they're more memorable in that way.
Yeah, and what I took from this, sharing my first impressions here, is the film is great. It's a great action-packed film. It's what you've expected from the John Wick franchise, going back from, where it all started with John Wick. Of course, the first chapter, the first movie. Then you go in John Wick 2, and it, kind of raises stakes a little bit, put him in more of a dire situation. Then, you go to John Wick 3, again, raises stakes a little bit, shows him in another, situation where he has to go ahead and actually lose a finger to show his, I guess, his allegiance, to the upper table,
Hmm.
uh, so to speak. So, it just seems to be up in the game every film that you go into, whether it be the first, second, or third, even in the fourth. The action sequences, fighting sequences, all that have been amplified tremendously.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought that they did a good job of putting you in that situation where you're feeling that anxiety with the characters that he's taking on in these dramatic fight sequences, giving you that anxiety because of the music. The music,
Yeah.
even the way that they had the whole thing choreographed, the music that they put in there was a high beat. It had a high beat, and they even went so far as you could hear the heavy breathing in the actual music itself. Like, it had that heartbeat, like boom, 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 boom,
I
boom.
have to say the soundtrack on this
Yeah.
movie is something else. Like, it was carefully thought out, and it looks like they had any pick of any song they wanted. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I don't want to say they just threw in songs, to make more memorable or whatever, but the songs definitely fit the mood. Now, for me, I haven't been to an IMAX in like maybe 10 or 15 years. Like, I just didn't. I don't really see the necessity of going to
Yeah.
IMAX all the time. But I forgot about like the bass booming and the feeling of the scene kind of going on. They definitely like
Yeah.
amp up the volume on this one, and it seemed a lot more louder than even the IMAXs I remember in the past. I mean, literally that first moment of the movie, the first
Oh yeah.
one,
Where he's
the whole
punching.
theater, the whole theater was like, oh. Like
Yeah.
you get jolted into that movie for sure. So I mean, hopefully your theater, I know not everybody see this IMAX because I wouldn't have seen it in IMAX either. We were just gifted and blessed with that. But if your theater puts up the volume, you're gonna feel this movie quite a bit,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
And the reason I think for that is that they have the speakers, like the subwoofers and stuff, they're embedded inside the seats when you're
That's what I
going to
figured.
see it in the
Yeah,
IMAX or at the Palladium. So you feel every punch, you're
yeah,
going boom, boom, boom. It's kind of rocking you in the seat, which is a good thing,
yeah.
especially with the music that they have, and you hear that bass drop, and again the punches, and then that high beat trying to mimic the heartbeat where it's really pumping out that bass there. Even the heavy breathing, I don't know if you caught that in some of the soundtrack too,
No.
where they have like the heavy breathing sequences embedded inside the music. And it's cool. It goes along with the actual sequence as it's unfolding.
Yeah.
But I thought John Wick was a great action film. I enjoyed it, and you got to think about it this way: when you're watching these types of films, especially action films, they're not groundbreaking.
Mhm.
It's not going to be probably nominated for best movie of the year or whatnot. You're going in there and you're going in there to be entertained. Basically, it's a popcorn flick. So that's what we got to gauge this movie as. It's not, well, is it groundbreaking? Is it breaking new ground? Is it doing something different? They did some things that were a little bit groundbreaking, in my opinion, for an
And
action flick.
and
You
fight
know?
choreography, definitely. Every movie,
Yeah.
the fight choreography gets better for sure.
Fight choreography was outstanding, but one of the things that really brought things to me in a different perspective was that three-quarter isometric view, almost like a video game, where they
Oh,
had a sequence where he's fighting, and you get to see they're fighting in this kind of a building that's being renovated. And as
yeah,
you're seeing what's unfolding there, it's kind of that three-quarter isometric view, just like a Resident Evil type of game from back in the day when you're playing it on your PlayStation, and you're getting that type of view, and it's really cool to see. And not only did it kind of pan and tilt and zoom that way,
yeah,
but it spins around, so the
yeah.
camera goes from that isometric three-quarter view to where it starts going around so you can actually see, and it brings a lot of motion. My wife kinda leaned into me and said, "Hey, I'm getting motion sickness," and I'm like, "I thought it was dope," I like that different perspective.
That sequence is definitely memorable, and you think you start off and you think you're looking at it from the top, right? And it, like you said, like it tilts out and you're following him.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like a video game a little bit, but much more advanced. I mean, there's no way anybody could play it like that, but you're kind of going in with it, you're going out with it, you're kind of feeling what he's
Around.
seeing, yeah, but you're still getting the full view of more of
Yeah.
what John Wick is seeing. Uh, as an audience member, you can obviously see more than what John Wick is seeing, but you kind of get his perspective a little bit. But it's definitely a cool view. It kind of looks like a rat in a maze a little
I mean,
bit, but just a lot of crazy stuff going on. You keep on going in and out on John Wick, which is
yeah.
really cool. Keanu's performance. I mean, he's back to his not talking very much, kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
gruffing, but that's where he excels, man. Like that's what he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
That's what we love about Keanu Reeves when he plays those characters. His one liners. They stick and they hit. Just right. If this one has, been trying to think of a theme. So the first movie is definitely about revenge, right? The second movie, the theme is your past catching up with you, right? The third movie is survival. It's just survival. This movie, it's
Yeah,
just
like
John Wick
redemption.
causing chaos. Like
Yeah.
that's what his goal is. He's causing chaos. So um that gives you an idea. Now I have to say, like, the action is kind of reminiscent more of I think it's more reminiscent of the first and second movies if they were properly merged. Like I said, I think the third movie, the action was good, but it was like weird. You know what I mean? Like, killing people with a pencil, just the different kind of stuff. Or was
Yeah.
it a cup or something? I can't remember
Oh,
exactly.
he did kill somebody with the pencil.
A book. Remember the book he put in
Oh, that
Bobin's
it was Boban,
jaw?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like just some weird kills that were just kind of like out there, but it was the survival theme of the movie. This one, I think the second movie had a lot of kind of gung fu, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
In the first movie was a lot of fighting, like hand to hand and stuff like that. So I think it's a good merge of the hand to hand and the gung fu a little bit better. And of course, we have a katana swordsman in here. Well, I don't know if he had a katana, but it was definitely a swordsman. Uh, and that brings another element to it as well.
Yeah, so basically you're getting a little bit of everything here in this John
Yeah.
Wick Chapter 4 film. Even the dog, they have to have the
Yeah.
dog. There's a dog
There's a
introduced.
dog. There's a
Yeah.
dog. Yeah.
Of course there is. Of course there is, and that was the scenes with the dog, especially nearing the end of the film, are really
Yeah.
memorable and quite funny. So we're not gonna tell you what they are, but
Yeah.
make sure you do pay attention to that. It got a good, reception from the audience.
Yeah.
But the storyline, I mean, it is what it is. It's an action flick. It's your typical flair for John Wick. So again, it's not breaking new ground. It's a continuation of the actual story, and I think it kinda ties things up nicely in a little bow for you, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like coming for full circle again, with an introduction of some new characters and some familiar faces. It's quite literally probably going to be one of the better action flicks of the year. And it's just like I said, you're in for a wild ride, an adrenaline fueled escapade is what I called it, because that's exactly what it is. I mean, you're going to be sitting down. Yes, it's a little lengthy, but you're entertained. There are some
Yeah.
parts where the movie kind of wanes a little bit and it gets a little bit, boring, and then it picks up again. But those parts are far and few in between,
The boring parts are very short. They're
they're
very,
very
very,
short.
very short. And
Yeah,
while I do think the movie's too long, the pacing's good. I
yeah.
do think the pacing's good. Um, and you guys will see about the villains. Like they're just memorable. They kind of remind you of Matrix a little bit, to be honest with you, which is kind of weird. But
They're
you'll
highly
kind of
stylized.
yeah, very
Yeah,
sure. I mean, there's right there. I forget his name. He's a Skarsgård, but there's a Frenchman, which kind of like Matrix here, but so yeah, and a blind swordsman, which obviously they had in Matrix Reloaded as well. But
yeah. It
it
was
was
a good
interesting.
flick.
Yeah,
It was a
I
good
like.
flick.
I enjoyed it. I did the storyline leaves me wanting a little bit not completely satisfied, and you'll see why, and you'll
It
be kind
leaves
of
the
like,
door open though,
it
you know?
does.
It kinda
I don't
leaves
want
the
to say
door
too
open.
much for that
Yeah.
because I feel that's a little spoilery, but
Yep.
uh, and you'll see why. And
Yeah.
but I think it can be fixed. So you'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah,
It is like I said, it kinda tied things up nicely, but it kind of left the door open for maybe possibility of another John Wick
well,
Chapter 5
they
flick.
always approve these movies one at a time. Like,
Yeah.
it's always did two. The first one to get us do two. They two did good. Let's do three, and
Yeah.
three did good. Let's do four. So it's not like
If it's
they.
making money, they're gonna make another one.
Yeah, I mean these are expensive movies. You can see when they're on location. Some of the sceneries are just like, even if they're CGI, man, like that's crazy. There's some of the stuff
Yeah.
you see on screen is
Well,
crazy.
some of the stuff that's the thing that I liked about it is that there's not a lot of, use, I would say, of CGI, kinda like,
I didn't seem
like
like it. It
yeah,
seemed like
like
they were
Marvel.
there. Like it was like it looks
Yeah.
like they're really there, unless they have access to some of those Disney stage studios that I don't know, but it could
I'm
be a
sure there's
possibility.
I'm sure there's green screen, blue screen, however they wanna use that, but it didn't seem like there was a high utilization of a CGI in
Yeah,
this film like you would have in a Marvel film, for example. They
yeah,
did a lot of, just they look like typical, shots, which they're
yeah,
not typical, they're really great, the cinematography, even the lighting and all that, the sound
yeah,
design, everything was on point. But, again, they're putting these characters in unbelievable situations.
yeah,
And one of the sequences, nearing the end of the film, there's a staircase scene, which I'm not going to tell you what happens, but there's a staircase scene, and that was quite humorous and funny, and everybody's like, "Oh God, really, this is happening?" But that was kind of like pushing it over the edge for me. Like, was
yeah,
it really believable? And
yeah,
then, I mean, come on, like in these action sequences, when there's a lot of gunfights and stuff going on, it's like, okay, he's taking two pistols into the fight, and each pistol holds between 21 and 22 rounds. This brother's firing off like, I don't know, hundreds of rounds, and he only has like two or three clips. But I mean, when you start processing things like that and you're trying to think of it too much, it
yeah,
doesn't make sense. But you're just in the moment trying to enjoy it. It makes perfect sense to you. You're just enjoying it for what's unfolded in front of you. I mean, the fight, choreography, like we said again and again, is on par. And I thought it was just a really well polished film as far as an action flick goes. And like I said, is it pushing new grounds, moving, cinematography forward, the film industry forward? Not quite, but it's a great flick just to go and just sit down and watch it and be thoroughly entertained. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and give our review. So Daniel, on a scale from 1 to 5, what would you rate John Wick Chapter 4?
I'll give it a four.
You give it a 4?
I'll give it a 4.
Solid 4. Okay.
Yeah.
So me on personally, I have to base it on, like I said, because my friend Ryan's always, we different very much in regards to what we actually see inside a film, and like we were talking afterwards as well. So make sure you go and give our Ryan some love with the Alamo City Movie Talk. He's a great guy. But we were talking, and I told him I got to classify it as an action flick, not just like a movie, in the genre of film, where you're going to go ahead and base it on the best of the best of the best.
Mhm.
For me, basing it on an action flick, I got to give it a solid 4 as well. So our average right now is going to be a 4, So
Yeah.
there you go. It's a great film, like we said. It's not going to be a bad film. I've heard some other things about some of the other films that have been coming up because we are starting to get near the summer blockbuster releases. Right now, it's in the early spring. So some of these films that are dropping, some are not good, some are a little bit different, But surprisingly, John Wick Chapter 4 crosses all my little boxes right there.
It
And
lands.
again,
You'll have fun for
yeah,
sure. I
you're
mean,
gonna
you'll
have
have fun
fun.
watching it.
If there's one thing that stood out, at you from this whole film, Daniel, when you were watching there, what is the one thing that really stood out at you? What did you come away with? Like, hey, maybe they did something different that I hadn't seen before,
I think I know this sounds weird, but like the colors on the screen were different than like the other movies. I don't know, like the tint, the filter on it was it was different, and it was almost like brighter, but yet still had that kind of neon. It reminded me of, but I know it's been like this before. What was the movie with Brad Pitt recently with on the train?
Bullet Train.
Yeah, it reminded me of that a little bit, but like less Japanesey and less, vibrant, but kind of that same filter tone. That's what I remember. That's what I remember most from it. Is just kind of like what it looked like in a whole.
Yeah, that's the LUTs that they're using, the highly stylized shots and stuff that they're getting, the lighting and all that, they're working on stuff behind the scenes in post-production, and I believe it's the LUTs, that they're using in regards to their producing of the film. And it gives it a really unique effects, which
Yeah.
I enjoy. If you enjoy these highly stylized LUTs, these flares and these bright colors and the way that the film has that polish overall, which is I think is what's coming more popular in today's film.
Yeah.
When you're looking at most of these action flicks or high budget films, they use these different camera angles, LUTs, different lenses and whatnot
You can
to get
almost
these
see it
highly
in our
stylized effects.
overlay right now. You can
Yeah,
almost like kind of that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's just that feel, and it almost I feel like it brings out the action a little bit more. I don't know if that's
yeah,
a weird thing to
makes it
see,
pop,
but
makes it
yeah,
pop.
like kind of like 300, but not so like over dramatic. But like,
Yeah.
but sort of something sort of like that. I think that's what I'll take away from this movie is I'll remember is like how it looked.
Yeah, so we just want to give a quick shout out to the gracious hosts that were out there once again doing a miraculous job of setting up this whole screener for John Wick 4. Really appreciate the invite.
Thank
Believe
you.
me, we really like going to these screeners, and the people that are running there are doing a great job. So kudos to them, and make sure you go and do check out John Wick Chapter 4. You won't be disappointed. You're going to be in for a wild ride. And make sure you go and check out Daniel's YouTube channel too. Daniel at Legacy of Nerd. He's big into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So if you want to know anything in regards to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Daniel's your guy. Make sure you go and check out his YouTube channel. Do you have anything else coming up on your YouTube channel?
I have so many interviews. We just had More Phenomenal Expo here in San Antonio. I just released the second interview today. It is Wednesday, so I have like quite a bit more. And then we are going to have a live interview with a mystery Mighty Morphin Power Ranger from the Mighty Morphin era coming up on the Geekcast on the 21st of March. So subscribe to either Countdown or me or both. You'll just make sure you don't miss it.
Yeah, make sure you go and check us out at countdowncitygeeks.com so you can look at the brand new website that we have, and we have everybody's content on there. Everything from Daniel's Legacy of Nerd to our new friend here, General Kenobi. So you can go and check out all his great stuff when it comes to the realm of Star Wars, and also the Ghost Heads radio show with our good buddies, Maddie B and Ted, doing their thing when it comes to anything and everything in the world of Ghostbusters. And also shout out to our friends over at the Countdown City WrestleCast Yes, we do have a wrestling live stream. So you got to check that out. Guys are very knowledgeable and cover the whole world of wrestling, not just the WWE, but everything and anything in between, even the wrestling that's going on in our own backyard here in San Antonio, Texas. So for Daniel, Legacy of Nerd, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you guys for watching our review of John Wick Chapter 4.